Welcome to Prince Student House exercise number 79 and 80 Sir Kailash Chandra. 160 words a minute, total words 1680. Be ready? Start. Sir, I am a great believer in the public sector and I have often said in this house that public ownership can take many forms, that it is not necessary for us to think in the old terms of complete nationalization. The British Labour Party has on this question done a great deal of hard thinking, and I would therefore say that it is a little disappointing to find that the returns from our public sector concerns are on the low side. Actually, I do not think that the public sector concerns should be condemned for that reason. They are new to their jobs. What about the returns that the private sector concerns give in the first few years of their existence? But we should have a high standard of efficiency in our public sector concerns and we should make them yield good returns. If that is done, it will be possible for us also to reduce the burden of taxation on all classes of the community. I do not say that the public sector concerns should be run from a commercial point of view only. Profit is one of the things they are meant to yield. I would in this connection say that I would like our employees, I mean the poorer classes of our employees, to be associated in some way with the management of our public sector concerns. So far as our private sector undertakings are concerned, I have been thinking in terms of co-ownership. I think I said this last year and perhaps I am repeating it again. I think our employees should be made, or rather they should be regarded or should be given the status of shareholders, and they should have a voice in the management of the concerns they are running. They should have a voice in selecting the directors who shall run the concerns for the country. They should have the opportunity to rise to positions of managerial importance in the concerns with which they are connected. I think it is in some such way that we should avoid the evils of what may be called bureaucratic socialism and give content to the shape of socialism which gives initiative, which gives opportunity, and which gives a sense of importance and dignity of the common man. Therefore, our efforts should be to eliminate gradually the distinction between the employees and the employer. My point of view and the point of view of the honorable members are so different that we can only meet socially outside. Now, Mr. Vice Chairman, much has been said about foreign capital and foreign technical aid. There are people who are opposed to the employment of foreign capital at all, but no country has been able to do so. We should, however, be able to employ foreign capital without strings attached to them as we are doing today. So far as foreign technical aid is concerned, we cannot dispense with it. I would like to say that there is a tendency in our country to be content with the second best or the third best. I think that is an unfortunate tendency. We have in the world of technology and in the world of science a great deal to learn from foreign countries. We have to learn a great deal from the United States of America and Russia, and also from France and other countries, and we should be humble in our approach toward this problem. We should be prepared to give to our managerial staff appointees of acquiring technical knowledge and technical skill in these countries. I will finish in less than a minute. There is this question which has assumed great importance, namely the question of price control. I know this subject raises some difficult questions. We have to consider the position of the farmer who has been exploited for ages by the people of the cities, but we have also to think of our people in these cities, all of whom are not rich. Many of them have to lead very humble lives, and the rise in prices, the rise in the cost of living, particularly in urban areas, is becoming very high. It is therefore necessary for us to have some system of price control. We should have a price stabilization board, which should be able to regulate prices in such a manner that they are fair to the farmer and they are also fair to the consumer in the towns. We should eliminate as far as possible the middleman. Then I should like to say that I am glad that the finance minister has given up deficit financing, but the question which arises is how we shall finance our 12th five-year plan. Methods must be discovered which would enable the financing of the 12th five-year plan in such a manner as to provide the greatest possible employment to our people. We must attach importance not only to our basic industries and to our heavy industries but to others also. Next para. Mr. Vice Chairman, this finance bill has been introduced at a time of crisis, at a time of external crisis. In addition to the Chinese on the north, we have incursions from the neighboring countries on the west. Therefore, it seems to me that the finance bill and the budget proposals should be defense oriented, but we find no provision for increasing in defense expenditure. It is still rupees 740 crores as it was at the time when the finance minister announced these proposals. If we are to put our defense in a proper order so as to ensure the security of our country, if we are not to look for military alliances in order to supplement our defense forces, our defense expenditure must be increased considerably and it will have to be rupees 800 crores, 900 crores or even 1,000 crores of rupees. There is enough money in this budget to allow transfer of more to the defense services. Money has to be found by reducing expenditure on other items which absorb so much money. The expenditure on the plan is 200 crores of rupees on the revenue account and another 300 crores on the capital account. This must be drastically pruned. The plan expenditure must be reduced to indispensable expenditure which may be required for the development of the country, like agricultural improvements and all facilities and aids that agriculture requires, like village roads, minor irrigation, reclamation of land, anti-erosion project, literacy, without which our agriculturists cannot increase their productivity, technical education which will also improve the productivity of not only the agriculturists but also those engaged in the industrial sector. There is certain expenditure which is unjustifiable in the present circumstances, in the present crisis situation in which we are placed. There is the expenditure on the planning commission. We really have a less expensive planning commission than the one which we have and which costs about 1 crore of rupees a year. The National Economic Development Council of England costs only 20 lakhs of rupees, 250,000 pounds sterling, and it does it good work as, if not better than, our planning commission to increase the productivity of England. There is also that absolutely unjustifiable item of family planning. I believe that in the fourth plan it will be raised to 70 crores. Then what about the expenditure on our administrative services? It has been growing steadily. We must have a commission on the pattern of the Hoover Commission, which proposed a reduction of $7,000 million in the administrative expenditure budget of United States of America. We must have a commission on that pattern in order to go into the whole business of our administrative system from top to bottom, from the center down to the states, in order to modernize it. We have been promised administrative reforms committee in the secretariat. The home minister makes much of these administrative reforms committee. First of all, their objective is only to reduce the delay in the secretariat, not to reduce the expenditure, and moreover, appointment of administrative reforms committees from among the secretariat officers is like asking the patients in a hospital to prescribe for one another. You must have an outside body, a scientific body of administrators composed of public men and the businessmen, such as the Hoover Commission was, in order to go into the whole business of the costly administrative system under which the country is suffering. Then in regard to our defense organization also, are we getting the best out of the money that we are spending, even out of rupees 740 crores that we can afford? What we want for the defense of our frontiers is a mobile force, not the kind of force suggested by somebody in the other house the other day. They wanted the frontier to be defended by the whole army. They wanted the whole army to be deployed all along the frontier. We want mobile force, well armed, well equipped, which will be able to rush to danger supports before these danger supports become more dangerous. The government has suggested that a police force would be enough to do the ordinary work of defending our frontiers. I hope it will be an armed police, something like the armed reserve police used in Madras now generally for suppressing the student riots. It must be better used in the ordinary day-to-day defense of our Pakistan border. Has the army got all the modern equipment that is required? Have we got enough machine guns, automatic rifles, mortars and grenades? And how many per unit? Have we enough small and medium tanks? Have we enough anti-craft guns? And have we enough helicopters, which are in evidence in the recent defense action against the Pakistan incursions? Have we got the new craft which does not rise above a new yards, but which would be very useful in desert areas? Stop.